Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Mary. I am a homeschooling mom to a pre-K-er and a first grader. This is our first year homeschooling, and if you clicked on this video, you're probably here to find out why we are no longer using Singapore Primary Mathematics, the curriculum we started our first homeschooling year with, and what we switched to. So, forewarning, I don't have a lot of negative things to say about Singapore as a method to teach. I am a firm believer that there are curriculums out there for everyone, and every child learns differently and connects better with a different curriculum versus somebody else, right? At the end of the day, I don't think this is a bad program. So if you're here to see me bash on Singapore, it's not that. There are some things I think that could be done better in this program, which I will highlight for you guys, because if you are watching this video, it's most likely because you are either thinking about using Singapore in your homeschool in the future, or you are at present using it and maybe hitting a roadblock, kind of like I did when I started searching out YouTube videos on Singapore math. And it may be the same roadblock we hit, and it might mean that ultimately, it's time for you to switch to another mathematics curriculum. Now, being a first-year homeschooler, I will tell you, I probably switched later than I should have to a new curriculum for my daughter because I was hell-bent on holding on to this curriculum because, one, I think it is a good curriculum. I think the methodology and the way Singapore math teaches is how I think about math. It's how I was taught math. So it was hard for me to let that go. I should have switched the curriculum sooner than I did. I'm going to be completely honest with you, but that's a live and learn kind of situation. So I'm going to dive into how the first little bit went with Singapore, why we ultimately realized there was a problem, and what we ended up switching over to and how it's going. And I'll tell you right now, it's going really well. So I will be doing a follow-up video and reviewing the new mathematics program we're using right now because I am a huge fan and it is going so well, and we are very well into this program, so I can confidently say we will be finishing out the year with this and moving on to their second grade program, which is exciting for us. So rewind to last summer in 2023. My daughter had just graduated from a charter school, their kindergarten program, and then we were realizing, okay, we're gonna homeschool now, right? So the first thing for me that I got really excited about picking out was the mathematics program because I do have a mathematical mind. I like math. I was super excited to teach it to my daughter and assumed that she would love math just as much as I did. So I will tell you, I did a good amount of research, and I ended up landing on Singapore Primary Math Edition 2022. I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't really understand the difference between 2022 dimensions and all the other primary mathematics options there are. They have a few. I didn't really understand the main differences between all of them, so I just went with this because frankly it's what I was seeing a lot of people use. Since then I realized a lot of people do use dimensions and they are slightly different, so I'm not sure how they're different, but I know they're different. So maybe we would have done better with dimensions, but ultimately that's neither here nor there. We found another program that works really well for us. So my daughter was kind of just chugging along, doing really well with this program for the most part, or at least I thought she was. On the surface level, it seemed like things were going well until I realized about chapter 2 or chapter 3 in her assessments. So I bought the assessment guide, so there's tests in here, just to kind of check how their knowledge is of the mathematical content that you're providing them, how it is, right? Is it clicking? Are they actually understanding the concepts or not? Because there's a lot of mental math in here, and I think that's good to know, but it also can be challenging to understand if your student actually knows, so that's why the assessments are great for that. So about chapter 2 or chapter 3, I realized in the assessment, I was like, she might not actually be getting this as well as I thought she was. I realized there might be some underlying gaps that were occurring, and I just wasn't aware of it. So me being a new homeschool mom, I did not want to switch out of this curriculum. One, I had spent a lot of money on it. Two, I really believe in the Singapore method of teaching math. And three, I just didn't want, personally, the first mathematics curriculum I picked out to be a failure. I mean, that was just a personal thing for me and slightly selfish if I'm being completely honest. So we took some breaks here and there. I would pull back and do some just, you know, practice worksheets and things that I would get online, or Teachers Pay Teacher or things like that, just to kind of give her a break, because my daughter is also a young first grader. Her birthday's in July. She had just turned 6 right before the school year for first grade, so she's on the younger end of the spectrum. So I was like, maybe she just needs a little bit more time to work through the material. Well, we hit chapter 5, and I mean, I think chapter 5 is one chapter away from finishing the first half of this program, and we hit a brick wall. She had a physical, visceral reaction to me asking, let's, you know, you want to do math? Let's get our workbooks out. And she would cringe and her face would squinch and she would do deep, heavy breathing. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is my happy-go-lucky kid. She doesn't act like this. Like nothing gets her down, really. And she was having this kind of reaction to math, which did concern me, because math is a subject I love, but I know it's also a subject that a lot of people do not love, and it can be very much the opposite. Math is very divisive. It's either I feel like you love it or you hate it. I did not want her to be a person that hated it. So I was like, okay, we need to pump the brakes. I think we maybe need to take a break from doing math at all. I actually remember, I think it was a Monday that I decided this on. I was like, we're just gonna play math games for the week. We're gonna game school. We're not game schoolers, but I was like, we're gonna be game schoolers this week in math, because I needed a week or two to kind of do some research and figure out, do we need to switch? And if so, what do we need to switch to? That is where I went to the internet. I looked on YouTube, I looked at blogs, I looked all over the place. And what I was finding was a very similar story to ours, of their first grade children hitting a brick wall when it came to chapter 5, which also so happens to be where they really introduce subtraction heavily, and kids just falling apart. It also came with the same story that their kid did okay with the first couple of chapters, but they weren't also necessarily clicking really well with it. So I don't think it's like chapter 5 is the hump that you can't get over. I think it's starting from the beginning, but it's kind of surface, boiling under the surface, and then chapter 5 hits and it just all explodes. You know what I'm saying? So I found out I was not the only person in this situation. I was not the only mom considering dropping the curriculum, which kind of felt like a failure to me, right? I picked the wrong curriculum for my kid and I felt terrible about it. But it also gave me the confidence to say it's okay to make a change right now. And as a first-time homeschooler, that was really hard for me to wrap my brain around. But once I figured out that it was okay, I dove headfirst into the research and I really took my time figuring this out. I talked to people I knew. I was looking everywhere for information on the different math curriculums out there. I found out that there's different types of programs. It could be Spiral, it could be Mastery. I think based on the way my daughter learns, and having homeschooled her, I think up to that point it was 6 months, I was like, I think she really does like Mastery, and I personally like the concept of Mastery. I think it's a good way to teach, but I also felt like review is not a bad thing. Doing the Spiral is not a bad thing, but I was like, is there a program out there that does both? The answer is yes, there is. And I found it because I got recommended this program, and then I delved into researching it, and I was like, it just clicked. I was like, this is it. I will be shocked if this does not work. And the program we went with was Math with Confidence. The funny part is that Kate Snow, the author, she actually was the author of the preschool math program we used with my youngest. I don't know why I didn't connect the fact that she had programs, mathematical curriculum for after preschool. I don't know why I didn't know that, because if I had, I probably would have started my oldest on this from the beginning, and we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. I'm not going to go into a full depth review on this because this deserves its own beautiful video, because this is a masterpiece of a curriculum. I rave about it to anybody and everybody that I can, because more often than not, if anybody has a problem with one of their curriculums, it always seems to be math. And I'm like, oh my gosh, try Math with Confidence. So with that being said, I will get into that further in the next video when I do a full-blown review on it, but I will talk a little bit about the pros and the cons between the two programs. So once I decided that was a program we were going to move forward with, I printed off some of the sample pages. I did a little bit of it with my daughter, and she liked it. She actually was kind of like, can I do math tomorrow? I was like, well, wait, I got to let me just order the whole curriculum and let's just start, right? Let's just start from the beginning. So she was kind of getting excited about it just from the sample pages. So I was like, this is a good sign. So rewinding back to Singapore. I don't think Singapore math is a bad program. I think that it just did not work well for my daughter personally. One thing I will say from a parental perspective is the teacher. I did not find the teacher guide very user-friendly, and I am a math person. My brain gets math, like it just connects. This was very much all over the place with the lessons. It was hard to like understand what I was supposed to be saying at one point when I was talking about it. There's no pictures of like the worksheets or what you're supposed to be working on. There is a key in here, but like you have these double columns. It's very scattered. I think I was able to muscle through it because I do understand math and the way that they're teaching it. So like thankfully, I think I was able to kind of push through it a little bit that way. But if I hadn't been a mathematically inclined person, I think this would have been really, really tough for me to push through. I think the worksheets are adorable. I think there's lots of fun colors, and I think the workbooks are great. I didn't totally love that there were two, and this is only the textbook and the mastery. There was a third one I could have bought, which was additional practice, so that would have been 3 workbooks for my kid. That's a lot to keep track of. Oh, and the assessment guide, and then the teacher guide. And oh wait, this is only the first half of the year. Did I mention that you have to buy all this for the second half of the year? Do you see where I'm going with this? That is a lot of books for 1 year of math for a first grader. In contrast, when this guy came in the mail, it had the teacher guide and the student workbook for 1 year. This is a math program for 1 year for a first grader, and I think this is much more appropriate and much easier to manage from an adult perspective, but also a financial cost perspective. I think adding it up, I think this program, Math with Confidence, I think it's either 25 to 30% of the cost of 1 year with Singapore. So when you're a homeschooler, curriculum adds up, and that is a big considering factor. At least for us it was. But I also don't want to just get the cheapest program out there and it not be of any good value. This is not only reasonably priced, but it is a fantastic program. I'll delve into a little bit of it, why here, but I don't want to go too much into depth. Again, I'll do a full video on this after this. So when this program arrived, I pulled it out for my daughter. I was like, hey, do you want to try one of the math lessons from here? Now, mind you, when was it? I think it was January or February. I think it was like beginning of February, end of January when we got this year. So we've been doing it for about 2 months now. And I decided, even though we're almost halfway through the first grade year, I was like, we're gonna start from the beginning. It's okay if we have to roll this into next year. To begin with, it's only a 32-week program. Yep, 32 weeks. So right then and there, I was expecting it to be 36 weeks. I was like, wow, we're really gonna be doing this well into second grade, but no, it's only 32 weeks, so you can easily fit that into your schedule. It's also can be a 4 or 5 day program, depending on if you want to do the 5th day of enrichment activities. That really helps drill the concepts home. I will tell you, with my oldest, when we sat down, she did the first 5 lessons in the first sitting because 1, it was fun, but 2, she had already done a lot of this with Singapore, so she was able to speed through them. So we are actually I think we're actually halfway through the program, 2.5 months into it. Again, because she had already done a lot of math, first grade math with Singapore prior to this. I don't think she would have sped through it like that if we had started at the beginning of first grade. But now we're kind of caught up to, actually we've gone past where we are with Singapore. So we've already gone through subtraction in this book, and she did fantastic with it. That was the real test. Was she going to be able to do this subtraction the way they teach it in here? And she did. She kicked butt at it. The reason that I really like this program is that, 1, it's not workbook heavy. It's very appropriate for kindergarten. I think their kindergarten program only has 1 worksheet per lesson. This has 2. You do the front page, which is about the lesson that you just completed, and this is at the end of the lesson, the child will do the workbook. So the first page is, this is what we learned today, and then the back of the page is review from previous lessons. So that's your mastery, and that's your review and your spiral is the second work page. On top of that, every lesson opens up with a warm-up, and the warm-up has to do with previous lessons that and the information you learned in those lessons. So there's your spiral review, and then you delve into the lesson, and that's your mastery, the way that the units are broken up and what they focus on from an information perspective. So again, it's got the mastery, but it also has a little bit of review every day, so you're not going to lose that information, those concepts you learned previously. The second thing I absolutely adore and love about it is that the lessons are scripted for the parent. I mean, beautifully scripted, and it's the way that they have the script in here, it's bolded and it's super easy to see. I mean, it just makes it so easy for me to teach, and it is a pure joy at this point. The other thing that's very big about Math with Confidence that's different from Singapore. Singapore was very much worksheet, heads down, do your math. Math with Confidence is very hands-on. It's tactile, kinetic in nature from a learning perspective. You have manipulatives, and the thing I love about the manipulatives is that they're super easy and cheap to get. The only thing I really think I bought was pattern blocks, and I think, what else did I buy? Oh, I had Play Money already, so I had purchased that before, but not for this program. Everything else is things that you can find around the house, or she has Blackline Masters that you can print off. So like a 10 frame or the hundreds chart, she has that all printed off and ready to go for you if you need it. So it's very economical from a math manipulative kit that you create. And then everything else is household items that you would need in order to get the lessons done. But they're very hands-on, and there's lots of games. The thing that I like about the games is that initially I was like, well, games, we're not game schoolers, that's a little bit out of our comfort zone. Are they really learning if they're playing games? Like, this is my personal public school education. Well, I went to private school, but you know what I'm saying, my educational institutional mind, right, not homeschool mind, thinking, are they really learning if they're playing games? Let me tell you, oh my gosh, they really are. It's insane, because we're using a lot of real world examples. Like, we create a store and they go in and pay money, and they have to figure out subtracting, okay, I have $1, that's 80 cents. How much will I have left over? Will I be able to buy something else? These are real world examples where math is being used, and it allows their brain to understand how to do that. So, and then the games themselves, they're having so much fun that they don't realize that they're doing math to get the game done. So it's a pleasurable and enjoyable experience, not only for my kid, who now is excited to math. She smiles when I say, hey, let's get your workbook out. She even asks to do it when we're taking a break. Like, if we're on a break week, because we do a Sabbath schedule, so we'll do 6 weeks on, 1 week off. On that 1 week off, she's like, so are we gonna do math today? I'm like, do you want to? And she's like, yeah. I was like, you don't want to take a break? She's like, no, let's do it. I was like, okay, let's do it. So that is all I could ask for, truly, for her to understand it, but also be excited about it. And Math with Confidence is that program that has gotten us there. Again, Singapore Math, I think it's a great program. I just don't think it was great for my kiddo. But on top of that, something else to mention is Kate Snow, the author. She actually is a big proponent of Singapore Math. This is actually very Singapore heavy in the way that it's taught. It's just much more hands-on and less workbook focused. Kate Snow, actually, just a little background on her, the author, she is a Harvard graduate. She graduated with a mathematics degree as well as a childhood education degree. That's my dog. And she was a homeschooler as well as taught math in public school up to 6th grade. So if there's anybody that has the experience, the accolades to write a homeschool mathematics program for elementary school, it's Kate Snow. And she pulls a lot from Singapore. If you actually look at the scope and sequence on this program and compare it to Singapore Math, they're almost exactly the same. It's just they approach it a little differently, and this one has more review, this one does not. So I think those are probably the big highlights and the differences between the two. I hope that was helpful if you're taking a look at Singapore versus Math with Confidence or any other program. Again, I don't want to, speak poorly of the Singapore mathematics program. I know a lot of people who have a lot of success with it with their kids. So again, it just didn't work for us. And I'm glad we were able to figure out that sooner rather than later and trying to push through. And we found a program that does work for us, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you are new to my channel, hit that subscribe button. If you would like to see a review in depth on Math with Confidence, or if you want me to do like a flip through and really go into depth with Singapore primary mathematics, let me know. This was more about just our experience and why we were switching and what we switched to, but I can definitely delve into that one even further if you would like, or if there's anything else that you want me to touch upon within our homeschooling, definitely leave it down in the comments. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.